want progress. It's not feel good activism and work. We have to say some hard truths about a lot of like very powerful individuals and entities. And so, for me, it's kind of like you got to surrender to the movement and what needs to be done, and like how we actually can meet the moment. And we have to like be loud and proud. And in Miami, people are so afraid. Like the Democratic Party is so afraid of like what names are going to be called. And, I think just leaning into that, like, we're not going to back down. We're not afraid of, the Democrats. We're not afraid of Republicans, Salazar. We're not afraid of the Proud Boys. Like, do your worst. And that really resonates when I talk to people, because it's like people are over it. And if we don't do something, we're going to have riots.
Not that I know as of this moment. Angel, if you can talk about the fact that District 27 is actually very unique. It's actually one of the...
It's very purple.
And it's not just that it's purple. It's the fact that it's actually fairly not gerrymandered. It's actually very much like a...
It's a normal shape for most districts.
And the overall distance that it covers is actually... if you really think about it, it's actually a district size-wise that you could pretty much cover the entire thing if you really wanted to. And if you could just talk about the importance of, the door knocking and what that means, and how this is really a true grassroots campaign where, we're going to be trying to reach every single voter in the district, which again, like I said, based on the size of the district, I think it's actually very possible if you have a lot of, boots on the ground, if you will.
And I'm glad that you bring all of that up. Geographically, this is why I say it's personal for me. I was born and raised in the district, in the heart of the district, kind of in Little Havana, but I've been doing a lot of looking into it. And all of these places that are I've been looking at to the map are places that I've been multiple times throughout my life. So the district and the makeup of it, and the nature, from Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, who was the congresswoman before Shalala, before Salazar. She was the first person in this district after it was redistricted, and now we're in a situation where it is again going to be redistricted. So we actually are not 100% sure of what the makeup is going to be as somebody who is coming from outside of the political establishment. I'm not waiting for cues from the higher ups. So I just decided to run a long time ago, and I've been working on the infrastructure. We are running a lean campaign. I'm really excited. There's an awesome group of people that I'm working with like every day, and because I'm tapped into those grassroots networks, whether that be like the DSA or the Dream Defenders or the Sunrise Movement or the Labor Community Alliance, even the Democrats and the Progressive Democrats, we're at a really good place that with our just foundation right now, we'll have the people power to be able to do the legwork that you're saying. And we have to do that because of like the nature of like where we are in relation to where they are and the kind of resources and financing. But I feel really confident about it. It's really exciting. I could talk for a while about why this seat is pretty unique for a couple of reasons, but.
Well, we have no doubt, as friend of the show, John Holder would say, there is obviously the ominous prospect.
Oh, good God, I hope not. For the love of all that is holy.
There is no question that it's very likely she will, simply because
are you
what else
kidding me?
But the question becomes, certainly there will be a lot of corporate candidates that will be running. As far as you know, are you the only non-corporate candidate that is running for the seat as it stands right now?
As it stands, as far as I know, I'm the only candidate who's filed. There was another candidate who filed and then switched out, Janelle Perez. She's running, I can't remember which state house district.
State Senate, I believe. I believe she's state Senate, if I remember correctly.
Oh, Senate, okay. So, so as far as I understand, I don't know what the motivations. I don't really want to speculate. I have heard that it may have been an establishment figure, that kind of made the way. Because again, this is like a census redistricting cycle. We're looking at a couple different maybe things that are not necessarily what we might expect. I've heard that maybe if it changes, Mercoso Powell might run in the race. There's a lot of different avenues, but they represent the same thing. I recently actually heard, I think today or yesterday, where Shalala was on the news, and she was kind of praising the neutered Build Back Better package. It tells you what you need to know. For my end, every single person that I've ever told about or has talked about her does that like out loud groan. And I don't want to characterize anybody. This isn't personal for me. This is more about like who is committed to the working class people and who has a history and the trust of the community to do that. And in my mind, that's me. And I have the people power to show it. And, over time, we'll be able to do that instead of just talk about it,
Here's what I know. It certainly isn't the person who ran the Clinton Foundation. Okay. I know that much is true. That is not the person looking out for your best
And that
interest.
is not the person who should be running.
Oh,
so
good
because
God.
you are running a non-corporate campaign, what would you say are the top 3 issues that you will be fighting for the residents of District 27?
Right. Well, the cornerstone of what the campaign is, it has to do with like the planetary crisis. And the reason for that is because it is like a nexus for every other issue. Right up there, we talk about sea level rise. We talk about the algae blooms. We can talk about the aquifers and the fresh water that's being pushed out, pollution, the acidification of the ocean. You can go down the list, and that's just the beginning. The septic system. So with that comes the housing crisis, because people are being pushed out and climate gentrification. And this is one of those examples where these very basic things that need to be addressed, climate gentrification, maybe the people in the community maybe not be aware of what it means, but I find it very difficult within the leadership of the Democratic Party here to even have that conversation. It's almost like a bad word. So going back to it, so I would say climate, housing, healthcare. Healthcare is a human right, and I go so far as to say, housing is a part of healthcare. You can't get better from a cold or a sprained ankle if you don't have a home. So that's where I'm coming from. So everything is kind of intertwined. A big aspect of that also has to do with immigration. We need to have a clear pathway to citizenship for people. It's a human right to be able to seek asylum and migrate. And that focus on like human rights and like whether or not the United States at home and abroad is observing, human rights. That if they're not being observed, we don't, like, the entire foundation of our society is like a farce. And it's just like there's no even pretense for like the rampant violations of capital, So that's kind of where I'm at. So I want to do a little bit more of an emphasis. When we're talking about running for a national seat, there's like international implications, and there's a lot of fear mongering and a lot of like manipulation about issues. But ultimately, we observe human rights here. We establish healthcare as a human right, housing and democratic practices. And then we make sure that is the case for every single person, and like talking about COVID, for example, COVID relief is a big one. But again, it ties into healthcare. So we can't have a vaccine apartheid. And that gives us also the framework to be able to talk about there is a global apartheid. You have the incredibly wealthy and the incredibly poor. And so, yeah, I can go on.
No, the fact that big pharma is basically able to be not providing for the least of us, the least of these, it's sickening. And the fact that we live in a country that allows big pharma to do that and not give vaccines to people that don't have the money to pay for it is grotesque. It is against everything we should be doing in this country. It's gross.
And I do think, speaking to where we are as stands today, especially in the state of Florida, and whether it is the former representative or the current representative, Representative Salazar is, just somebody who, if you know anything about her, she's not somebody who is, from the grassroots. She is not somebody who is going to be working on behalf of working people. And
she's not marching for $15 an hour, people.
No, she's just marching on the next career block along her ascent, if you will. And so we don't need representation like that, because that isn't representation. We need public servants. And you, Angel, are absolutely somebody who would be a public servant.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.